Hi everyone, we're gonna get started. Welcome to Berkshire Green Drinks. Thank you for joining us. This event is organized by Berkshire Environmental Action Team, also known as BEAT. If you don't already know about us, we have some handouts over here. We also have a sign-in sheet floating around, so if you haven't signed in, please do so before leaving. That just helps us keep track of how many people are attending our events, which is important because we are a nonprofit. And for those on Zoom, you can learn more on our website, thebeatnews.org. I also recommend everyone to check out our website. We have a lot of, thank you, Audrey. We have a lot of resources on there. We have a community calendar, so environmentally related events from organizations and individuals who send those to us. We have a jobs board. We keep up with public notices and also the environmental monitor that the state puts out twice a month. So yeah, definitely check that out. And I think, yeah, other than that, we do have a lot of upcoming events just over the next several weeks. It's the summer, so it's the perfect time for environmental and outdoor events. So please consider joining us for those and checking them out on our website. And everyone on Zoom, if you could please just stay muted during the presentation. Feel free to put things in the chat whenever. And then we'll have a Q&A once Steven and Audrey are done speaking, presenting. And I'll make sure to relay those questions to them. And yeah, so we'll also save all the in-person audience questions for after the presentation as well. I think that's everything, so I'll hand it off to our speakers this evening. That's already on. Okay, thank you guys.
All right.
We're the Hoffmann Bird Club.
Hi everyone. We're not gonna wing it tonight. We do have a formal presentation we're gonna talk about, but we're so happy to be here to talk about the club and all of the great things that we are doing. I am actually relatively new to the club, and it has really changed my life since we've been here in the Berkshires, so excited to share this. My name is Steven Miller, and I am the Vice President of the Hoffmann Bird Club, brand new Vice President. And this is my third year with the club, so jumped right into things very quickly. And I, like many people, started birding in the early days of the pandemic, looking for something to do outside that I could do by myself, get some fresh air. And we put up some bird feeders, and it was basically all over for me from that moment on. So really excited. I feel like I am always learning, and I feel like once I feel like I've figured out something about birds, it's totally then changed right after that. So one of the things I just really love about our club is that everybody is really friendly and welcoming, and even as a beginner plus, as I call myself, everybody's always really supportive and helping us all learn more about birds. I'm going to pass that on.
And I'm Audrey Werner. I joined the club in the late 1980s. And I've been past president, a couple of times, served in a lot of roles. And now I'm the communications officer. I write the newsletter. But I do want to add that when Steven joined, we met on one bird trip here around Williamstown. And afterwards, he wrote to me. I was in my living room on the laptop. And he said, "Does the club need any help with the website or anything?" I jumped up and yelled, "Hallelujah!" And Steven has been fantastic with our social media. When I joined, we had like 80 club members. Now we have like 360. And we've really grown, and it's really super. We'll talk more about it. So why birds? So everyone here, everyone in the club is just interested in birds at any level. So some people like to watch their bird feeders. Some people like to go on field trips. Some people like to just come and hear a presentation from, an author or someone's travelogue, like these are the birds I saw in South Africa, or anything. And so we are all united in that we just have an interest in birds at any level. So there are some people who are very competitive. They keep a bird list. They publish it on eBird, Cornell's worldwide database for birds. And then they have a little competition, like a case of beer, whoever saw the most birds in a year. I know it's a couple of people in the club. And so you have people like that, and you have people that just like watching bird behavior. So our club is filled with all sorts of different people that like different things. And mostly, I just like it because it really connects you with nature. You know, the new term is forest bathing and things like that. But really, whenever you take a walk, you know, your blood pressure goes down. You just feel great. You're connecting with nature. But birding adds a level of depth to your walk. It's really like more interesting if you like hear a bird. It's like, oh, I want to learn that call, or I know this bird, I can see it. And it just adds a level of interest and depth when you connect with nature. And there are also, birds are great indicators of global climate change and many other things. But that's one of the main reasons why I got into birding.
So a little bit of history on the club. I've sort of found myself as the unofficial historian of the club over the past several months, working on an archive project. And so we were founded in 1940. We are coming up this October on the 85th year of the Hoffmann Bird Club, which we're really excited about that milestone. And it was started at the Berkshire Museum with 20 people who were interested in birds. And we were recently reviewing those early club minutes of when they were founding the club. And it gave me a chuckle to read through many of the same things that we're dealing with and thinking about and talking about today. But when they started the club, they meant it to be a really serious birding club. It was not for people looking to be entertained, which I feel like that is incredibly different now, right? Entertainment is really important to our club. But it was really created to promote the study of birds in Berkshire County, promoting conservation and education, and that connection with the outdoors that Audrey was mentioning. So we started with those 20 members. We are now up to, this says 350 on the slide, but I think we're pushing 360 now, which I can't even imagine what those original club founders would have even thought about the idea of there being 360 members contributing to our birding community. But you know, thinking about kind of where we are now versus where we were then, when the club was founded in the 1940s, obviously during World War II, a lot of those discussions happening, looking through meeting minutes, talking about getting to trips with a lack of private cars because so many of the cars were put into the service of the war, and thinking about sort of those transportation challenges of the Berkshires. In one of the meeting minutes, they talk about how they were going to go to Bartholomew's Cobble down in Sheffield, Ashley Falls, and their plan was to take the train from Pittsfield to Ashley Falls and then walk to Great Barrington to get a bus back to Pittsfield. It's not a short walk. You know, discussion of, well, you may be able to get a bus near enough to Mount Greylock to be able to do the trip. I don't know what close to Mount Greylock is for those purposes then, but the club has really changed, and we have tons and tons of events that we're going to talk a little bit about today.
Before we move on, this is a black and white warbler. And on my slide, I forgot to mention that blackbird with the white on the wings and that cute little yellow cap was a bobolink. And I always think those male bobolinks look like they have a dandelion on the top of their head.
Field Farm here in Williamstown, a great place to see bobolink.
So notable changes. So the club has seen a lot of different changes in the species that are here. Bart Hendricks, who found the club, used to say, boy, cardinals, never had a cardinal, and you weren't anybody unless you finally had a cardinal at your feeder, because they really have only been up north for like 50 years. So a lot of birds now are pushing their range northward, maybe as climate changes happen. The red-bellied woodpecker, Carolina wren, those are expanding ranges coming north. And so we have also had returns of species due to legislation banning DDT. A lot of our raptors now have come back. Their populations went way down. Peregrine falcon, bald eagle. Here's a picture of an osprey. And they're now just starting to breed in Berkshire County. I think 3 years ago was the first nest. They're continuing at that site. And there's at least 2 or 3 other sites where we now have ospreys breeding successfully, fledging some young here in Berkshire County. And we've seen some declines, like it mentions Bicknell's thrush. That's a mountaintop bird. And when I joined in '87, it was already gone from Mount Greylock. So to get my life bird, a life bird is when you see a bird for the first time. So we had to hike up Stratton Mountain. So we organized a trip and we hiked up and we saw Bicknell's thrush. Then about 3 weeks later, we heard the Hoffmann Bird Club drove up a Jeep trail. Those wimps, you know, Hoffmann Bird Club hiked up. So we've seen a lot of changes. The reintroduction of turkeys is another notable change in the birds.
Amazing to think that turkeys were totally extinct from Massachusetts for about 100 years. You know, it's such a common bird to see, especially if you go as you go further east. It seems like they're just roaming the streets. So as a club, we have lots of events throughout the year. One of the highlights being monthly meetings. Matt Kelly here organizes all of the great speakers that we have at our meetings every month. And we get a great combination of local club members, you know, scientists really doing active research on birds, world-renowned speakers. We've got a few examples up here on the slide of folks that have come to the Berkshires to talk to our club or have done so virtually through Zoom during our winter meetings. But I talk to many people, birder friends, who are jealous of the people that we get at our meetings.
We have people from the Cape Cod Bird Club that joined us during COVID because of our quality of our speakers that Matt brought in, and they have stayed members, you know, so it's really good. So we offer free all the time. All of our field trips, all of our monthly meetings are free if you're a member or a non-member. We don't charge. And so we have bird trips that are led by experienced leaders, but as someone was mentioning, when you go on a trip, the leader will help you learn to identify the field marks or those kinds of things, but everyone else on the trip will help too. So you want to let people know if you're a beginner, and they'll help you get on the bird. And you say, like my brother in Tucson, Arizona, one of the hot spots in the US, I want to find every bird myself, Audrey, he said. Yeah, this was Larry. I'm like, Larry, but it's so much more fun to go with a group of people. And you see more because you've got 10 sets of eyes, you know, 360 degrees, so you see more birds. And then they'll help you, oh, it's down on that branch, you know, 3 o'clock in this elm tree, you know, or whatever, so they'll help you get on there. And you can see we go in the winter too. We aren't wimps. We'll go in the winter or a coastal trip, you know, where you get things like puffins coming down from Maine. And so we, here's Carrie, who's sitting right over here, and her buddy Chuck. So we have a lot of things. You'll notice that sometimes we get the reputation, birders, of looking a little nerdy. Well, you want to dress in subdued colors because birds see color, and you could scare them off if you get a bright red jacket or something like that. So, and also tan kind of helps with ticks and mosquitoes. You'll notice park rangers are always wearing dark green or beige. There's a reason for that. And so anyway, these are group pictures from our field trips.
Yeah, and most all of our trips are here in the Berkshires, so a great way to explore all of the beautiful nature right around us, many places that I probably would never venture into on my own if I didn't have kind of a tour guide for that. But we do also do some trips outside of the Berkshires. There's a group photo here from a trip that we took this February into New York to the Schwangunks, that's perhaps how that's pronounced, to see short-eared owls. So, you know, that afternoon we all got to watch, I think we had 13 or 14 short-eared owls just cruising over this field looking for voles and mice. So
In the past, we've done overnight trips to Cape May, New Jersey regularly. We just got to get a leader hooked in to do that.
yeah.
And in the next slide, we have a list of our upcoming trips. So here's 6 of what we have. Our season runs from September through to August. So these are the remaining trips on this year's schedule. And I'll just point out that we are known as the Birding and Eating Club. We have a March meeting at Hinsdale's Aussies, Birds and Breakfast. And here's a Mount Greylock Birds and Breakfast led by Carrie sitting over here. And this top to bottom Williamstown is kind of cool that they invented Chuck and Carrie. We ferry the cars up to the top of a road, and then we'll just slowly walk down. And at this time of year, there's going to be a lot of birds feeding their young, so there's still a lot of bird activity out, even though it's June.
I think Carrie's leading like 4 out of the 6 of these. So this is a great time. We're in Williamstown in North County. I think all of our remaining trips for the season are in North County, Williamstown, North Adams. So
Well, October Mountain is.
yeah, I guess that's further south.
And
but,
this is a yellow warbler.
yeah, awesome. Okay. In addition to our field trips that we do, we have lots of annual events and traditions, many of which have been happening since the 1940s. Just to highlight a couple of those, the Bartlett-Hendricks Waterfowl Census, which is, from my understanding, one of the longest running waterfowl censuses in North America. And that has been happening since 1946, started by our club founder, Bart Hendricks, and that happens each November. Tom Tyning over here is an incredible coordinator for that excursion, and our goal is to visit all of the lakes through central Berkshire County and see what ducks and not ducks are out there. So that is always a really nice sort of treat during that fall birding. We participate in the Christmas bird count, and we've been participating in that since the club founding back in 1940. The Century Run, which just happened last week, the first outing of that was 1946, and that is in 24 hours. The goal is to try to find 100 bird species in Berkshire County, and we've got some folks who participated in that this year. Altogether, we ended up with 150 species in the Berkshires in 24 hours. And so we've got all these really great traditions and events that are meant to have fun and socialize to some degree, like Dove Key Day, and also to sort of participate in community science, create these long-running censuses to see changes in bird populations over the years.
One of the things our current president, Chip Blake, started was this committee to take care of our avian records specific to Berkshire County. So there's a Massachusetts Avian Records Committee called MARC. So this is BARC. Isn't that clever? And so they're a group to get together and they're reviewing all the records. Like there's an old record of a flamingo here in Berkshire County and things like that. They are researching the historical records and taking in new things. So this wood stork, that if anyone has been in Florida, you might have seen wood storks high on their nest. And that was in South County, in someone's backyard, walking around for 3 days before they showed a picture to a friend of a friend of a friend that said, oh, I know someone in the Hoffmann Bird Club. Whammo, we get that. And she wrote up all the records very, very well. So that's a nice record. This is a trumpeter swan. It was first seen on Pontusic Lake, March 27th. And then it flew away. Of course, everyone went down to see it because it's not in this area normally at all. It's out west and up north. And then it was relocated by another Hoffmann Bird Club member in Clarksburg at Mozart's Pond 2 days later. So I dash out another email. Everyone who missed the trumpeter swan, go to Mozart's Pond. So a whole lot more people got to see it. Beautiful, beautiful bird, the largest swan in North America. And this is a Pacific loon, again, down on Pontusic. So we've got these highly unusual birds. And if you think you have a rare bird, a good way to tell is it rare or not is this checklist of birds that Chip Blake wrote. He's written a book, The Birds of Berkshire County. It'll be coming out soon. So this lists every bird in Berkshire County, and it has the months across the top, and then it has a letter designation if it's common or rare. So if it's not on this, like wood stork is not on this, then you would know it's really rare, and you could fill out a form online. You could write to the bird through our website and say, I think I have a rare bird, here's a photo, what do you think? I answer all of those, and I'll get like all of the people involved that would want to take note of that and secure the record for the club.
Yeah, this is, I think, really important because we have this record of the flamingo that Audrey mentioned. This last year, there was a flamingo that appeared out on Cape Cod. And all the birders out on Cape Cod and all these news publications are reporting Massachusetts' first flamingo on Cape Cod. I would question that, right? Of course, that flamingo was seen in Lennox Reservoir in the 1960s. And of course, technology, record keeping, all those things, not quite where we are now. This is a really good resource because traditionally we find out about these records long after the fact. People didn't take photos or take down any details. So if you do come upon something and you think, this is really strange, it maybe shouldn't be here, you've got your little checklist and it's rare, or maybe it's an extreme high count of a bird. We're interested not just in a bird being rare, but if it's rare for the time of the year, or there's a whole bunch of them and normally you see one. We're interested in all of those kinds of records. And we have a form on our website where you can submit those for review. And finally, Audrey mentioned the birding and eating aspect. We do have socials. We've been really trying to make a comeback with these socials in the last couple of years here. But we do like to bird, but we also like to socialize and talk about the birds that we saw. And so we have various socials throughout the year, several potlucks or meetings that are also potlucks. We've started doing some board game days to play the board game Wingspan. We've had a couple of those. Beat graciously hosted us for our last one at their offices. We've done some group trips to the movies to see bird-themed movies that have come out. And then just some regular socials, sit down, have a drink at Hot Plate Brewing in Pittsfield. But we're constantly trying to come up with new ideas for socials and events because we live in a society that is increasingly disconnected, and we often find that when we have our meetings or these field trips that people want to stick around and talk and socialize, and we don't really have a lot of space for that sometimes in meetings because of our structure. So we wanted to create this extra alternative to be able to just get together and connect, particularly in the winter months when it's not quite as exciting to get outside. So.
Well, yeah, when it's cold and people are a little bored, so we get together and do that. So it's been really good, and they're always well attended too. Yeah. 20 or 30 people at each event. The potluck dinner in June for members, has about 50 or 60 and quite an assortment of food. It's very good. And that's down at Pleasant Valley Sanctuary. Before I get to this slide, I just want to say a few things, like things that our club does for the community to give back. We take our dues memberships and we donate to sister organizations once a year that the executive committee comes up with a list. We have about 6 different places and gave close to $2,000, and one of them was to be the Berkshire Natural History Conference. I'll just put in a plug. It's going to be November 8th here on Williams College's campus. So more things will be coming out on the website as we get that going. And we also collect donations to give camperships at Pleasant Valley, down in Lenox, to students, to young people that normally wouldn't be able to afford to go to camp. You know, back when this was started, it's in honor of Marilyn Floor, who was a member and worked at Pleasant Valley for a long time, like 20 or 30 years. And so we started this campership fund, and we've been doing it every year since then, giving 2 or 3 camperships a year. And the price was way back then, you know, $150 a week. Well, now it's like for the, you know, like $400 a week. But they have a sliding scale now. So we take our donations and we say, we want to put this to the people in the 2 lowest sections who normally couldn't go to camp. And so we donated close to $3,600 this past time. So we give them it in March or April. That's when campers are registering. So the club does a lot of giving back to the community in that way too, as well as for the preservation and study of birds. So to connect with us, our website is up here, the Hoffmann Bird Club.org. And as I mentioned, I answer all of the contact us things if you write in. And that's our email address, and Facebook and Instagram that Steven does. And we have some brochures over here. This is Let's Go Birding. And that tells you like how to get started.
Yep, there's some great resources and tools in there if you're interested in shopping around for a new pair of binoculars, for instance, or getting some info about maybe what kind of field guide might be best for you. There's some links to some reviews and guides in there as well.
And Steven made up a little take home of our next 6 trips that we had listed on there. That's over on the side, and a little business card with our website address. So you're welcome to take all of those things. And so now we can go to questions.
Yeah,
if
I
people
think we're
have
right at
any
our 30 minutes.
questions.
Oh, we have a question in the back corner. Okay, so the question is about dues for the club. So membership is on an annual basis. Currently, our membership rates are $15 a year for an individual or $25 for a family. So quite affordable, I feel, for any group. You know, emphasizing that those dues really help us with our ongoing operations. We've talked about all the field trips we do. We offer about 50 trips a year, and as well as our speakers and our meetings, and those are all free and open to the public. So those fees really help us to be able to continue to provide all of those resources to our community.
And when you join now, because most of our meetings are done, you're paid through August of 26, a whole free year. And this is before any potential increase too. Yeah. You know, because we said it's been $15 for 40 years, and we're thinking like we bought 5 pairs of binoculars to bring on trips that people don't have any. And we said, boy, we'd love to buy another 5 pair. And then someone said, do you think we ought to talk about raising the membership price? So join now. Did you have a question, Susan?
Okay, love that.
What is Dove Key Day?
Oh, okay, yeah, so there's a question about Dove Key Day. So, a Dove Key. Dove Keys, I love a Dove Key. They are these little, they look like little black and white footballs. They are Alcids, so kind of in the family of puffins, and these little tiny birds that live their life at sea. They do appear sometimes on the Massachusetts coast. We actually have a handful of records in the Berkshires of dove keys being blown way off course because of a nor'easter or something. But typically we do not have dove keys in the Berkshires. Last year, however, a local birder who is a wood carver that does a lot of decoys made a decoy of a dove key as an April Fool's joke and placed it out on a pond here in the Berkshires. And it caused a little bit of a stir. Our past president, Greg Ward, spotted it, and a couple people reported it on eBird before they realized it wasn't real. And out of that April Fool's joke came a new tradition that we did for the first time this year called Dove Key Day. And essentially it's a bird scavenger hunt. So there's a whole rule and point system, but Zach Adams, who coordinates our field trips, has acquired the dove key decoy. And the night before, he went out and placed it in a body of water somewhere in the Berkshires, in the central Berkshires. And then teams would, the next morning, meet up and then go out and try to find as many birds as they could, plus try to be the first ones to find that dove key decoy.
And then get together for pizza because it's the Birding and Eating Club.
Yes, yeah. So we met up for lunch and did our count up. You got points for each bird species you found until you find the dove key. And then the first team to find the dove key got, I think, 25 points. And then after that, each team, it scaled down. So this sort of like balance of like, well, we want to find the dove key, but we maybe don't want to be the first ones to find it because we want to get points from other birds first. So eventually all of the teams did find the dove key. I would like to say that my team was the first to find the dove key.
Remember I mentioned a little bit of competitiveness between some members?
Yeah, and it was on the road to Richmond Pond. There's some wetlands along there, and it was just sitting there in the water. We almost drove right past it. But eventually all the teams did find the dove key. So it's a new tradition that I think is going to continue on each year. Yeah. And there was a lot of uproar during the count up because there were some special sort of bonus rules of like a bird with green on it, and then yellow birds. There were some points, but there was some argument about what birds have green on them. And
green heron, but
yeah, well, wood duck apparently did not count because it's actually iridescent. So there were a lot of questions about iridescent birds. Of are those green? Do those have? Yeah. And then a lot of people saw a great egret, which has yellow around the eye and the bill, but that was not a bird that was primarily yellow. Just had yellow on it.
Oh, boy.
So there was a lot of people were really raising their voices during the count up. It was kind of funny to watch. Our newest tradition, most of our traditions have been happening for a long time, so we're excited to add a new one to our list.
Does anyone else have a question about what we talked about? Yes, Bill.
So is the Hoffmann Bird Club is totally independent? Is there any kind of loose association with the other bird clubs in Massachusetts?
So
Communication with them?
the question is Hoffmann Bird Club an independent entity or part of any other association? And we are an independent bird club. But about 10 years ago, there was a movement to have an association of Massachusetts bird clubs, started by a fellow in the Brookline Bird Club back east. And so there are maybe 16 or 18 bird clubs now that are part of that, and we are one, and I'm the representative of the to that group. And we advocate when something comes up, like putting all of our names on a letter for a conservation effort, to like preserve horseshoe crabs, because a lot of migrating shorebirds eat their eggs when they're going up through all the coastal bays and things like that. So there's a lot of conservation effort. We also exchange information. Hey, what worked good for your club? Oh, another social event that we hadn't talked about is we play bird bingo. So we had a bingo card with birds, and then you could just see within the whole month, you know, across, diagonal, you just have to see the bird, not the whole card. I was amazed, like half the people didn't know how to play bingo. At a meeting, I had to get up and explain, you know, like, you see this bird and this one, then you got bingo, and the center bird was any bird. So then when people got a bingo, we had numbers on the windows of the card, and they would email me through the website, and then of course that's a time date stamp for who got in first. And we had like 3 prizes, but that was really fun. So we've done that a bunch of times in the fall, and they haven't made a spring bingo card yet, but maybe that's coming down the line.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, no, someone else had their hand up when Bill asked. Sarah.
If you've ever thought about programs to involve kids or college kids, like I noticed we've never really had much of a bird club here. Williams, I wonder if there is one at BCC. There is one.
Sarah knows well about, there's a Williams College Bird Club. And there is a group of students, and they own binoculars, and they go out regularly. I think the current manager of Hopkins Forest, Elise LeDuc Fleming, is the current sponsor. And they are active. They don't like to get up early. That's what. Yeah, so the student member who joined the Hoffmann Bird Club, and he got hooked. His name is Jackson. If you've been on trips, you've met Jackson. And so he's gun-ho. He was at the Milne Library at 6:45 last weekend to go on the trip to see the bobolinks. And so there is a group for that. So in the past, we have had people bring a lot of younger folks on our trips. There was a problem for a while with homeschoolers. I went on a trip to Tom Hannock Reservoir, and I thought, surely someone is going to die. The parents were not watching the kids. That's a high traffic road. And I had to keep saying, stay on the side of the road, stay on the side of the road. And a bunch of other things, you know, we said if you're less than 18, you have to have a parent accompany you. And then we had a discussion, frankly, and we said, we will leave the youth education of birding to Mass Audubon, who at that time was running a lot of programs. And here in Williamstown, the Williamstown Rural Lands Foundation runs a lot of youth programs. So we donate money to these places for their youth programs. So maybe in the future, something else would happen. We had a series of beginning bird watches, bird walks, and we would vary it in the spring between North County, Central County, and South, and we called it Birding Beyond Your Backyard. So we thought that was really clever.
Yeah.
Another clever phrase was empty nesters, you know, trying to get people who are finally free of their children to do what they want to do, which is come birding with us, because now they have time, you know. So anyway, we had, and we have beginner bird watchers now, workshops now that Steven is leading to this year. But that was another program that we ran. You know, they go for 5 or 8 years, and then they peter out, and, you know, interests change over time. But right now, we don't have something geared directly towards young folks. But college students are members. We have members from MCLA, and we have members from BCC. They come to the meetings, we give them rides, we support them.
Yeah, I will mention that if we do have some high school, I think we kind of settled on 16 and up, unless you have a parent or guardian with you. But we do have a student membership that's $5 a year. But of course, all of our events are open and free to the public. So we do have, you know, we do have a good number of college students and even some high school students who come to our events. We've had some discussions about what the future of that looks like as budgets change for a lot of nonprofits. But we haven't really figured out what that looks like exactly yet.
Does that address that, Sarah?
That's a good question.
Yeah, very good. Yes, Nidhi.
I looked at the schedule and see that most of the walks are at 7 a.m. And just wondering if there's a potential for having an evening walk, like so people could come after work when it's dusk, nice time of day, cool.
So the question from the floor here is, most of the trips are in the mornings, and would there be a trip that could be after work or in the evenings? Most of our trips are on Sundays where there's less traffic because we have people carpooling to various places and parking is difficult. On a Saturday, there's much more traffic around. And we do have some midday trips that we try to keep them to Wednesdays so that we have some sort of a format. But we sometimes offer owl prowls at night, where you're mostly going to hear the owls instead of seeing them. And right now I'm going to call on Tom Tyning to give a good rendition of a barred owl. Excellent. You made me do that on a bird trip.
I know I did.
In the mid-90s, and I practiced in the car after that, but I'm not going to do it now because yours is better. So yeah, we have had owl prowl trips.
The Nighthawk watches that we'll have in August are evening outings, because that's when the Nighthawks are most active, coming over the mountain ridges. Audrey in the spring leads American Woodcock Walk here in Williamstown. That's also an evening one.
Yeah, that's true.
Most of the time, they end up being morning walks because that's often when the birds are most active and out and feeding and singing. 7 o'clock is early, but in the spring, they're usually earlier. And the ones that we do in the fall are usually a little later just because the sun rises later. We do have, most of the trips now at this point are all morning trips, but we do have some evening outings throughout the year as well, certain locations.
Steven brought up the Nighthawk Watch. Now that's a different kind of trip that is kind of fun. You take your lawn chair with you. So the North County spot where we go is down next to Eve Pond. So you sit down and relax for 2 hours from 5 to 7. So a couple years ago, we're all down there, and Bill and Karen were there this night. They'll remember. So we're all there, and oh yeah, there's some Nighthawks. Oh good, flying left to right. Okay, yeah, someone count. Okay, there's 12. So I'm writing down and keeping track of everything. And dusk is coming. Luckily, Bill had his camera out with a lens like this long. And suddenly a bird flies out of Eve Pond, and you can hardly see in there because of the cattails. But this bird flies out, and we got up so fast from our chairs, the chairs were falling over. We said, "What is that?" And there was this big bird with long legs, and it was not a great blue heron. It wasn't a green heron, and it was an ibis. And so very rare sighting. It stayed for 3 days. Every night it was leaving and coming to Eve Pond. And it was extremely exciting. And that was fun. And you just never know what you're going to see. If you just get out and get into nature, you're more likely to see something interesting. You just got to get out there.
Yeah.
Remember the ibis was following the red blue.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we had a size comparison right away, and then we had Bill's photos. And then the next day, another birder went up. If you're familiar with Williamstown, Eve Pond is on campus down near the Hoosick River. But up above it is Highland Woods, that apartment building. So if you go into their parking lot, you can look down on the pond. So they went up and they identified it for sure. And so it was very, very exciting. I know no one believes that, but really, when you're just taking off 12 or, and then Tom Tyning's Nighthawk Watch, down in Central County, they get a lot more Nighthawks than we do in North County. And they'll have flocks of like 300 going over, So, yeah, they got the big numbers down there. But we got the quality bird up here. Oh, yes, a question?
Actually only one so far. I'm assuming maybe more after this, but it's for a lot of the morning and it's hikes.
That's a good question. So the question is about the morning trips, if a lot of them are hikes. It varies. We do try to do a pretty good job on our event listings of what to expect from it. Some of them are a good bit of walking. Many of them are kind of roadside birding, driving to location. Sometimes it's a mile loop. So we really try to describe what people are going to be doing and talking about what the location is like, accessibility, like that. We know that many people have different needs for that. We try to offer kind of a variety of trip experiences.
Yeah, so we'll describe the terrain. It's a flat and easy gravel path at Greylock Glen. Flat, easy to walk. Or when you go on the Moneybrook Trail, that's more of a hiking trail, and so it's a narrow dirt path with tree roots. So we try to describe our trips online where we have more room. When we used to print a booklet, we could never put all those descriptions in. But now online, we can describe the trip. So you can know ahead of time if it's rigorous or not. And sometimes even people say, this is a casual, informal bird walk, and that'll be in the description. And you can always call the leader and ask questions.
Do you ever do ones that are accessible for wheelchair as well?
So the question is about wheelchair accessibility. We do have some. We do a couple walks at Parsons Marsh in Lenox, which is a really great accessible trail, boardwalks with rails along the side. Greylock Glen is fairly accessible, wide and flat gravel. So we do have some. And then, of course, we have things like the Nighthawk Watch, which is you pull up a folding chair. And so we have a variety there. And we do try to point out on the trips which ones are going to be more accessible for those purposes. BNRC also has a really great resource on their website about trails around the county that are accessible and the work that they're doing with the trails that they manage. So that's a really good resource for that too. So.
And you can always, contact the leader. Steven put into our website a great RSVP program. So when you look at the description of the website, if you think you want to go, you can RSVP, click on it, another window pops up, and you register it with your phone number and your name, and that way the leader knows you're coming, and you will automatically get an acknowledgement email, and that will give you the leader's contact information. So like heavy rain always cancels. But if you're wondering like, oh, it's just sprinkling, are they still going to run the trip? See, the trip leader has your email and can email out and make an announcement if there's a decision based on weather. So this RSVP program that our wonderful Steven came up with and integrated into our website is working pretty well. So we can know ahead how many people are coming, and then they get the information that they need. On our website, we don't dare put people's personal cell phone numbers. That's not on the website. You have to use the contact us, and I'll answer your question and give you the number if I think you look legitimate, and things like that. So
yeah, and most of our trips are kind of open registration. Some trips we do put a limit on how many people can attend, either because of space, like Birds and Breakfast. If you've been to Ozzy's in Hinsdale, it's not a big space. Or there's other limitations that we may need to cap it. But many are fairly open-ended. A new feature that I haven't even mentioned to Audrey yet, coming for this next season's trips, is the ones that have a limitation. There is going to be a wait list system.
Yeah. So you got to remember, if you can't go because you got an invitation to dinner or breakfast somewhere, so you can go in and cancel and then someone else can attend.
Yeah.
That's a great feature.
Isn't there also a deadline?
Oh yes, that's a good question about deadline. We shut the RSVP system off for the trip typically 8 p.m. the night before. Some trips may be earlier if we need to have some additional planning based on numbers. After 8 p.m., you could technically still show up and we're not going to be mad at you, but if we need to cancel or something, if we don't know you're coming, then you might miss those communications. So we prefer that everybody RSVPs ahead of time. But we try to wait a little bit in as long as possible to give people that opportunity. But once that closes, we provide that list to our trip leaders so they have it, and in case they need to reach out.
So this summer, we're going to be planning all the trips for September through August of next year. And we don't know what the weather's going to be, but it'll be all planned and laid out, and where it is and where you meet. And where you meet is in the description online.
And if any of you here in the room are thinking, I have a great spot that I like to go birding, a great trail, and I think others should see this, please contact us and let us know, because we're always looking for potential new trip leaders, people who are interested in getting involved with the club. Leading a trip is a fairly low commitment. We're going to be doing a meeting in a few weeks with people that are interested in being trip leaders to talk about what that looks like, what the requirements are. But if you have something in mind that you think other people really should see and experience, please let us know.
So then we pair you up with an experienced trip leader, you know. But a lot of it's logistics. Where are you going to park? Around 10 o'clock, you got to have a public restroom available somehow. You know, logistical things that make it easier on the human beings on the trip. So
yeah, you don't necessarily
sometimes
have
it's
to be an expert on
logistics.
the
You don't have
birds.
to be an expert birder to be a trip leader. Where there'll be people on the trip and we'll pair you up with somebody. Yes?
How long do the trips usually last?
So the question was, how long do they usually last? It depends upon the event. So it's usually 2 or 3 hours. A description might say, bring a lunch. We're going to bird until 3 p.m., like the waterfowl census. But we usually have a stop at an orchard, Bartlett's Orchard, to get some cider donuts. So that's another question you can ask the leader. Sometimes people have to leave early so they don't carpool from the meeting spot because they know they got to leave in 2 hours, things like that.
Yeah, generally about 3 hours, though, is
Yeah.
the average.
Any other
Any
questions?
other questions?
Anything on the website? Zoom? How many people do we have on Zoom, Chelsea?
At this point, only 17, but there were 51 registered.
Oh, wow.
There were 51 registered?
Yeah, and I don't know what we were at.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Online, but yeah, we've had people drop it.
All right.
That's great. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
We really, we really